Blake Harrison-Price from the historic Wall Center. Patrick Johnston covers the Canucks for Postmedia. We haven't had him on since a week ago Monday when we had a pretty good debate about whether this team was underachieving or overachieving. I'm going to start with
what even is
football
English
at his feet. We asked the poll a few days later, and
and it's binding. It's legally binding.
Lo and behold, 93% agreed with me that it was underachieving and in opposition to Patrick.
They didn't get the exercise.
Well, I guess, it's just confirmation why it's Sakaris and Price.
So Blake and I are having another debate today. Tread carefully before you find alignment, Johnston.
Oh, God.
I don't think there's any chance Patrick Allvin is going to dismiss Rick Tocchet.
Zero.
Okay. I could see a world where they lowball him on an extension.
Not midseason,
and he walks away.
Not midseason.
End of the year. Well, first of all, it wouldn't be positioned as a firing because I could see them
mutually agree to part ways.
Yes,
exactly. Amicably, perhaps even.
I loved working for the Vancouver Canucks.
Said no
well,
one.
We've seen how amicable it's been with Trevor, in the intervening years. No, I could see a lowball offer where Rick just says no. I could also see Rick saying, I'm just fed up. Enough of this. Forget it.
Sure.
I'll go work in TV.
Or I'm a Jack Adams coach and I can go play anywhere. I can go coach.
Or that too.
Yeah.
There's an opening over here. I'm going there. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
To our Surrey Mitsubishi poll question, do you think Tocchet will be back next year?
This is a good question. This is a very good question. Oh, man. Look at
Not will he get fired. That's it. We're being very vague here on purpose because there's a bunch of different avenues I think that this could take.
Will he be back? I think I've been going on the assumption he will be back despite everything. But that's probably because I'm selfish and I like talking to him.
Right.
Does he like talking to me?
This is like me with Vanny. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
So selfishly, I want Vanny back.
Yeah. Media. I do think he'll be back. I think there's enough. There's lots in the organization he appreciates. For all the chaos we might see, I think he values the management group. I think he values ownership. The players may be driving him crazy, but this is the management group that's in it to win it, right? Like they do intend to try to win the Stanley Cup. That's why they're here.
And that's the huge missing piece that the three of us probably don't have. You might have a slightly firmer grip on it, but still not the firmest grip of what are they promising him that they're going to do? Like they could have grand plans, whether it's midseason or end of season of, don't worry, Rick, player X and Y are not going to be here, or player X is coming here. We know he's coming. Like we don't know whatever he's being promised.
Well,
right,
I think they know they misfired last summer, right?
Yeah.
That they're trying to integrate more players than they should have. The loss of Zadorov and Cole, for instance, just as room guys. You don't know that you can do all the research you want on the sort of playing skills and playing abilities of a player and try to figure out what they're like as a persona. But until you put that group together and you don't know what it's going to look like. And so they had some certainties with them, with the likes of Cole and Zadorov, that they went into the offseason and they didn't bring those guys back. And there were playing reasons to do so. I get it. But, as a group, they misfired. The defense obviously has been nowhere near good enough. I think they would tell you they own that collectively. It comes back to where do they go from here? And the Pettersson Miller, like how are they going to resolve this situation? Are they going to trade JT Miller? How does that play out in front of him? I mean, because he holds a lot of cards going into the offseason. I still think that there's enough here that he believes in. He's part of the team. He's part of the group. And obviously what it looks like in the offseason may change his mind, but I think as it sits right now, he would look at this group and say, listen, I think we're going in the, we obviously need to make some, I mean, from the outside, we know they need to make some changes. Like I wrote yesterday, and I wrote on the weekend, like there's enough here that you start thinking about how things have been before, that, there's a frustration with the group, with what they're hearing or not hearing, with what maybe worked last year, not working as well this year. How they sort of redirect this ship, however that happens, I think will play a huge factor in what he decides to do. But I think if you're asking me to lean one way or another, I think the trend is towards him staying.
See, here's the thing. I think an Elias Pettersson trade increases the chances that Tocchet will be back. And I think a JT Miller trade decreases the chances that Tocchet will be back.
I think one way or another, the situation needs to be resolved. And it's hard to see. I mean, I know I've been leaning towards a no trade. I'm back towards leaning that a trade will resolve this. There's just no way to go about this other than they have to move one of these guys out. And I do think that they are leaning. I mean, I think the preference would be Miller. I think at this point, just looking at once again all the reasons we've said before, because not only is Pettersson younger, the ceiling is higher. You need guys to score. He's a better offensive player. He's a better two-way player. Miller is 32. 32.
Well, and then there's also the theory, can this really be Quinn's room if Miller is in it? And so by removing JT, do you effectively clear the decks, if you will, for Captain Quinn Hughes, make Elias feel more comfortable within that dressing room, and then go forward that way? Even if it costs you something by way of talent, personnel, even if it's a trade that you got to hold your nose to make, sort of thing, that, long term, some of the parts, are you better off going that road? Because of course, if you trade Pettersson, you've just reinforced that JT can keep on being JT in that room.
Well,
alongside Captain Quinn Hughes.
JT is going to continue to be JT. Like there's no real mystery there. It's not, could he be someone else? No, this is who he is. The Miller Pettersson thing from a playing standpoint underscores the overall problem with the team. Neither of those guys is getting anything done right now. Like Pettersson has not, they're both been picking up points here and there, but the overall is that they aren't getting to the middle enough. This team had success last year for much of the season because there was luck involved, but they were also just getting to the middle of the ice, the guts of the ice on the other end of and they're not doing that. And then when you have the likes of Bluger and Suter, who are good centers, but not fast centers, there's no one playing fast on this team. And from a playing standpoint, they need to change things up over and above whatever's going on in the room.
Flying the ointment for a Miller trade is his health.
Yeah.
14, 15 minutes a game has got a lot of eyebrows raised. Is it purely performance-based? And if it is a suspected injury, neck, shoulder, what have you, is anybody anxious to trade for the 30-something guy with neck and back issues?
It's a huge problem, and a friend was at the game on Tuesday in Winnipeg and said that beginning of the third, Miller spent a long time hunched over at the bench with the trainer talking to him, whatever that is, right? But that's further to the question of what is going on with him physically, because we're not seeing him physically engaged. You haven't seen him, battling along the boards the way we are used to seeing him. He hasn't, as I said, he's not skating through the middle of the ice the way he might have in the past. If that's because it's a player choosing to dog it, that's hard to imagine, even with a player who is frustrated. There's no suggestion he wants out, but even if he wanted out, it's hard to imagine a player playing like this by choice. To me, it's just so clearly there's a physical limitation he's dealing with, and whatever it is he had at the beginning of the year, I have no reason to think that's gone away. We suspect there was a neck thing. He's never said it, doesn't want to talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Should that guy be playing in the Four Nations face-off?
Well, I literally thought about that. Is Team USA going to have regrets on this? Like, they picked the guy because he was a great player. Like, listen, he's been a fantastic player, right? Like, his career as a Canuck, we were talking about at the beginning of the season, this is a guy that is trending towards all-time great Canuck. He had a great season last year. He was picked for the Four Nations Cup on merit. And now he's a disaster.
And never mind that, but if you're the Canucks, both from an asset management standpoint or an on-ice performance standpoint, why would you want him playing in that tournament when the alternate is 2 weeks off? That sounds a lot more appetizing if I'm the Vancouver Canucks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A guy, maybe that's what comes to a head here, whether he's traded or not, that at a certain point they say, well, he's going to take a break, and that, by the way, that overlaps into the Four Nations tournament.
Yep.
And all of a sudden he has another month off. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's not a good situation one way or another. And it's not the way this team was designed to be, obviously. They designed this team the way it looks, and it hasn't worked, and there's a bunch of reasons why, and some of that is because of injury. Mm-hmm. And some of that's because of the room, and some of that is bad luck, and some of that is, it's just, there's a snowball here, some of which they could have controlled, and the biggest thing they couldn't control is the way they assembled this roster, and this roster has not worked.
Yeah, and frankly, I think you make the same case for Demko, unless you want him working. Who knows? We'll see.
I think
between now and
I think you need they've got to play Demko. Like the Mm-hmm. I got the dilemma that they were facing in Winnipeg. You got a guy who's coming off a shutout. They didn't play him the last time he came off a shutout. Does he earn the next start? Well, yeah. In the end, the team didn't play very well in front of Lankinen. They didn't lose because Lankinen wasn't great. I don't think Demko in the net necessarily makes a difference.
Yeah.
But in
honestly,
the big picture, I was going to say, in the big picture, there's no reason not to be going back and forth between these guys at the very minimum right now, because Demko is good. If Demko is going to be your guy going forward, you've got to see him get back to where he is. And he's right. Not. He's been okay, but he has not been spectacular. And last
2 wins and 8. 2 wins and 8. So, yeah, no, you're quite right. And frankly, I thought the decision was very understandable for those of us on this side of the ledger. In hindsight, I think it was the wrong call. Because Tocchet had said, I can't overwork him. That's when his level slipped. We saw a couple of examples of that earlier this season. When they couldn't play Sheloff, they had to keep going back to Lankinen, and suddenly he got past a point of no return in terms of his effectiveness. So I think, I'm not sure Demko was the right call, but Lankinen was clearly the wrong call. Do you believe they have to resolve the Miller Pettersson thing in season? And if it's yes, do you think this team deserves? Okay. Do you think the list of teams that JT would accept a trade to changes in the offseason from where it would be by the March trade deadline?
I guess why would that change?
Exactly.
I'm not sure that changes.
So my point that's my point is that if his list of teams does not change between now and the offseason, you're still dealing with, let's say, 3 or 4 teams, then principally, is the return going to change much? Like, do the Pittsburgh Penguins or Columbus Blue Jackets offer more in the summer? And if you're facing this reality in your Alvin and you go, okay, well, it's not going to be a trade that I'm absolutely proud of, that I'm going to lead my resume or cover letter with when I'm done managing in Vancouver, but let's just go ahead and bite the bullet and at least give this team a chance to move forward and see if something is possible in the playoffs, as opposed to waiting to the summer and thinking that somehow this team is going to turn it around.
Well, the calculus is this then, guys, does this team have a better chance of catching lightning in a bottle with a miraculous resurgence of Pettersson and Miller together?
Yeah.
Or do they stand a better chance of addition by subtraction with a trade for JT Miller? That's the calculus.
And I'm door number 2 because, Patrick, we were wondering this yesterday. Can you name a game this year where the Canucks came out of it and were like, boy, what a night for Miller, what a night for Pettersson? Huh?
At the same time? Nope, Can't remember that. I may have happened, but
If there is,
So you're 43, 44 games in. Like, how long are you going to fucking wait on one of those? And when you see one, do you think, oh, that's it? Here they go. Yeah. They're great.
Yeah,
no, you're going to have to see a number of those in short order.
The window of possibility
to
is very
be honest
narrow.
with yourself and make that call that, we're back, baby. Here comes the resurgence.
Yeah, no, exactly. And then, the window for that even being a possibility is very narrow. I mean, everyone focuses on how many points he put up while Miller was out of the lineup, but Pettersson was playing pretty well before Miller left the lineup, but it had only been, 10 games. So, the two of them dominating, think about the power play. The power play is not performed well. Miller is now, was pulled off the power play the other night because he's not contributing to the power play. There's absolutely, I think Blake said it, it's addition by subtraction. It's just, it's not working as it is. They've reached ahead. Nothing lasts forever, right? I don't know if any of us expected it would go quite this way, but you knew at some point something was going to change in terms of performance. And then you'd have to think about it. The Canucks had made the bet that essentially the Hughes window was always the window, and they made a bet that this season would be a carry forward from last season, and even going into last season, that picking Miller over Horvat was the way forward. And they were proven right last year. The team played great, and there were lots of those nights. Pettersson obviously had the second half fall off, but before the All-Star break, the Canucks looked like they were going to have 2, possibly 300-point players. Like we mustn't forget that. Like Pettersson was scoring, Miller obviously was scoring, Quinn Hughes obviously was scoring. Hughes was scoring at an astounding rate. This team thought they were going somewhere, and they thought they were only going to be building further off that. And that has not been the case this year. And obviously you don't want to forget where you were and why you were there, but you look at where things are at now and the way things are feeling and the way things are just not working. That's why, like I said, I looked back at that Quinn Hughes the Pat Quinn story from 91 and just said, listen, that team was underwhelming to start with. Quinn recognized he needed to switch things up and he got aggressive. That's a lot harder now, obviously, because of the salary cap.
It is,
with the players we're talking about. This is, JT Miller, not Dan Quinn. It is a change. They would benefit, I think, from a change. Whether they can make that happen in an effective manner, we will see. But I think
cursory glance, the only multi-point game for both of them that I can find, just a quick glance.
I just did the same exercise, Blake.
Calgary, November 12th.
November 12th is the one time where they both had multi-point games.
5 days before Miller takes his break, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Lastly, your colleagues at Postmedia, Dan Fumano has done some terrific reporting on this play. Well, not just Dan. There are other colleagues.
Joanne Lee Young was working with him on the latest one,
Right. On the Plaza of Nations site, which there was news this week. It sold.
Yeah.
So it sounds to me like the dream's dead there, right? There will never be a Canucks practice facility on the Plaza.
Or is it alive because they've got somebody new to negotiate with to be a part of that? I don't know. How do you see it?
I mean... obviously it was an option there for a long time, and then suddenly it wasn't. Right before the pandemic, there was going to be a rink. I mean, the plans as they currently exist, there's still a community center ice rink planned to be in that development. The question is, as Dan highlights in his reporting, is will the new owners carry forward with the plans as they exist, or will they do something differently? Especially with now that we're seeing the viaducts are coming down. I mean, the actual plan. I mean, the plan always was that the viaducts were going to come down, but now it seems like there's real momentum towards that happening because of the Concord Pacific stuff around the corner. Which, by the way, I mean, there's only some notional drawings of what they want to do there, but as it stands, there's no suggestion that they might put a rink in there instead. I mean, years ago, at the very beginning of this whole discussion with the Aquilinis, there was an idea of kicking tires on could we build a rink in Northeast Falls Creek. And as look where we are. Nothing's happened there. Nothing's happened to the Plaza of Nations. Yeah, that dream was dead. I think there's still a sort of a dream of UBC, but we'll see how that happens. It's a story that. I will go back to the anecdote that was once told to me that When they were recruiting Chris Tanev, they told him part of the reason why he should come play for the Vancouver Canucks was that they were about to build an exciting new practice facility.
Exciting.
This is Chris Tanev out of RPI all those years ago, or this is Chris Tanev as NHL free agent?
Yes, this was part of the recruitment in 2010. And here we are 15 years later. So Chris Tanev's career, it's still going, but we know it's going to end very soon. It will have come and gone.
Don't worry. We'll have a practice facility and a couple of Tanevs. And you two continue to tell me that SFU is a non-starter because too damn far, right?
No, that was
because we saw SFU made news with their report. Football is not coming back. Men's hockey is not getting elevated. And the coach there still seems to think, we could be something in NCAA Division I hockey. And, Francesco's an SFU alum. But you're telling me it's too damn far. They're too precious to drive to Burnaby Mountain.
Correct.
For a practice facility.
Correct.
If there were some sort of residential development opportunity that tied in with that, as there was going to be across the street from Rogers Arena.
Right.
Maybe.
One final thing before you go. PJ, have you caught the last couple of games of Erik Brännström as an Abbotsford Canuck?
Your guy.
But
did you see
that's Blake, there is no there. That is the level.
They gave up
he is a quad A player.
They gave up 44 shots last night. So, it's
there you go.
Is a
counterpoint. Touche.
It's a strange story. I don't quite listen. He was not a preferred choice. Fine. He's a flawed defender. Fine. It just, I in the end, Blake, when we first discussed this, he had been playing very badly. But you're telling me that he is of no use. And okay.
Yeah.
No. Minus transportation, there were certainly games where he would have helped that.
Yes. And I think
who knows what he would have caused on the other side of the puck. I was with Blake on the puck transportation, but let's not sit here citing AHL point totals as a reason why.
Not point totals. Go look at what he looks like. The guy is a wizard out there at the AHL level.
Again, against guys who are not of NHL caliber, let's not go citing that and saying, yes, that means he absolutely belongs as an every night top six Vancouver Canucks.
It is a passion of this market, and I think it's probably true of many markets, to
the
love
passion of Blake Price.
To love the underdog, to love the guy that you just want to succeed because in them you see a little bit of yourself as maybe, just maybe, there's a chance for me.
This goes back. Are you fucking kidding me? He has never once daydreamed about maybe that could be me.
This goes back to Goldobin.
You don't know, Blake.
This goes back to
what's his face, the Finnish winger.
No, because I didn't know him as well. His game. No, Teuvo Teravainen.
No, not Teravainen. That waiver claim guy that you and Tomlinson debated for 12 minutes, 13
My
minutes.
debate is about the deification of the guys that are in the spots that the other guys can't beat out. Stop it with this deification of the trees on the Canucks defense. Couldn't possibly take their defending out of the lineup. Yeah, you sure as hell could. Stop it. It's not the deification of Brännström. It's of the other guys. Are you?
The point is that
part I agree.
Fundamentally, it's not Erik Brännström, and it's not that they should do better than the trees in general.
Right.
Brännström doesn't solve that problem. Yeah.
There is unrest in the forest. There is trouble with the trees, as a great Canadian poet once wrote. I'm glad that got spicy at the end for two reasons. Number one, it's PJ. We have a theme to uphold with him here. But secondly, I sat there for the first 18 minutes going, look at how white we are. You can tell it's the middle of January. There's just no pigmentation. Yeah. We haven't seen the sun in weeks. And we got a little
It is literally the middle of the day and it looks 7 p.m. outside.
Yeah, it really does.
The girls, we stepped outside to walk to school this morning and Molly goes, why is it so dark? Maybe it's been sunny the last couple of mornings, but it had been raining. It's just dark. Yeah, guys, I was standing there as post Pucknuts. We another terrible performance, sadly, for the Pucknuts. But I looked at my arms and I could not believe how white. It was just in contrast to how this is
alabaster
exactly.
Oh.
Yeah. It was so great seeing the sun for the last couple of days. We
Yeah.
need more of that.
All right.
Good.
You brighten our days. Thank you, Paige. Till next week.